This is KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guests today are Lynne Rothrock, cabaret singer from the Cedar Rapids area, who's been on the show many times. Lynne, welcome. Nice to see you.
Thanks, Dennis. Hi. Good to be here.
And joining Lynne is Meg Norris, and Meg is a part of a cabaret concert. Call it a concert series, which is going on at Theater Cedar Rapids. Meg, first of all, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
And this has got an interesting genesis, Lynne, because it's a show that's going on this weekend at Theater Cedar Rapids in the studio stage, the lower level Grandin stage. Mm-hmm. But and you're musical directing it. So far, okay, that makes perfect sense. But it started, and nothing surprising there. But it started as a class.
Yes.
And and then kind of morphed into a show. So tell me a little bit about how all this started.
Well, it was the idea of the then education director, Matthew Kearns, to try to create these evening classes for adults, the comedy improv and the cabaret classes. And there was a tremendous amount of interest, and we started having a really good time. And I suppose I can't remember exactly how long it's been, but it's been a couple years, I suppose, of classes and people taking the cabaret classes from me, and then there was so much interest that we made a level 2 class, and then there was a sort of an extra showcase beyond that where we could call it level 3, I guess, where people did a full 30-minute set of cabaret singing. And so both of those programs, the improv and the cabaret, were so successful and generated interest that Theater Cedar Rapids decided to put them on their actual season, to put 2 of each of those shows on their season.
And of course, this was an audition thing, so just registering for the class didn't guarantee a slot.
Nope, although if you had already taken the class, definitely sort of knew my drill, because I have a whole process sort of that I go through in terms of song interpretation, and that's really what it's all about, is telling the stories of the songs and bringing the lyrics to life and how we approach them from an interpretive standpoint, especially in that kind of intimate setting. So I think taking the class was probably a real jumped ahead in terms of...
Certainly gives you a leg up.
A leg up on the process, for sure. Mm-hmm.
So Meg, you are one of the singers in the show, so you've been through the class, I assume.
Yes.
Both classes, level 1 and level 2?
I actually, I did start doing the improv, and I had fun with that, and I saw the option of cabaret.
Oh, so you started off with the comedy improv and then switched to the singing. Oh,
I did, and I had fun with the improv. It was a guaranteed laugh each week, and then I'm like, hey, I've been doing karaoke around town for a few years, love singing my, once a week, so it was just another opportunity. I had never met Lynne before then. So I went and I fell in love with it, and I just continued with the cabaret. I took the first class, and then I took level 2, and I liked it so much I took level 2 again because that's what was offered at the time. And so I had 3 of the mini showcases, and it was really fun because at first it was just like starting with 2 songs, and then I think I went to 3, and then doing a full set to 4 and talking in between, and I'm just falling in love with it and very happy that, auditioning got the opportunity to be part of the series this time.
Lynne talked a little bit about about her process in thinking about lyrics and song interpretations and things like that. Tell me about that as a student. What was, when you went into this, I'm sure you said you've sung in public, you've sung karaoke, and people make fun of karaoke, but you still got to go, you got to hit the notes, you got to do everything right, or else you get booed off the stage. So you weren't exactly a novice when you got into this, but what was different when you started approaching it from the cabaret point of view?
It was more the storytelling. I'm used to karaoke as you get up, and as soon as that first note hits, you're blasting, because it's usually a crowded place. You can hardly hear yourself sometimes, and a lot of people they're having fun. There's some drinking involved, which helps loosen you a little bit. And so you're just... it seems like people are just really, just blasting at the top of their lungs sometimes at karaoke. Cabaret, totally different. I really learned that you have to build. You have to kind of start a little bit soft. Lynne always says, she has some great little tips, like you have to earn the right to hold a note. So starting like almost talking the song can help to build that, to get to that end point. And I've actually totally opposite now when I do a karaoke song. I start really soft, and then I do my build then, and I enjoy it more, and I think, as Lynn has pointed out, it's more enjoyable to the audience to take that journey with you and not just having it blasted in their face at the beginning.
Of course, our audience, Lynn, is used to solo singers and, jazz singers interpreting music, either, accompanied by a small group or a big band. There's a shade, though, of difference between that and cabaret.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, I'm not if you're a jazz purist, you would not find me to be a jazz singer, although I often get categorized that way. In my opinion, jazz vocalists are not as lyric driven as they are musically driven, and that is improvisation off of the melody, changing the melody, altering the melodies. Although the lyrics sometimes play very heavily into that, it to me is a more almost instrumental experience.
I was just going to say that, voice as an instrument.
Exactly. And then with cabaret, it's much more, I think, theatrical in the sense that we're really going, it's lyric driven and it's telling the story. It just happens to be set to music. And so it's kind of the best of all worlds in my life because it brings in all these different things to play. And as I often say, which the black dots on the page are just suggestions.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not singing Mozart. So most of the music we sing, I always encourage the students to sing something pre-1950. I love it when we pull up a jazz standard, but we don't usually have a trio or people to take solos, so we have to find ways to create a full and complete song with sometimes a very short form. But we very much mine the gold of the lyrics and, for use of a better word, manipulate the melodies and the rhythms to suit the interpretation. So that's, to me, really fun and exciting, and it gives you a lot of freedom.
Talking with Meg and Lynn about the upcoming cabaret concert at Theater Cedar Rapids this weekend. And then also Lynn has a show coming up that we're going to talk just a little bit about here in a moment, too. Before we get to that, talk to me just a little bit about picking that repertoire. You said you like to make sure that people will pick a standard or something like that. But yes. Meg, when you started looking at music for your portion of the show, what were you looking for?
Something that is not natural to me, which is a nice dramatic love ballad, because while I love to see them, Lynn has pointed out that the audience needs a little bit of variety sometimes. So I started when I think even my first two songs, the first class, were ballads, and then it's like I started getting into, with Lynn's help, some comedic numbers. And this time I knew what I was missing is what Lynn was talking about was what we called a standard. And for me, I just am not acquainted to much music before 1980.
Well, so there's a really good radio station you could listen to get familiar with that.
I'll have to start doing that because I really need some help with that area. But and I just love the way that the song that I'm singing that she picked, it's actually, it's been redone through the years. So it's songs that you're familiar with, but you don't know have been redone. And I think that this one is originally from, I hate to be wrong on it, but I mean, it was, I want to say around like the 30s or something.
Probably. Mm-hmm.
So, and just had no clue until you start looking into it. And that's what makes these songs great, these standards, is they've been redone throughout the years and they're so recognizable to people. So that way, when we have an audience, and especially the people that I invite some of my friends, some coworkers, people that have, before this have never been to a cabaret show. And they come and they're so surprised because they're like, oh, I recognize that song, or I didn't know that song and now I like it, or I didn't realize that I was going to laugh at this, and it's just great to see those reactions.
Yeah, I think that when people think of cabaret, they conflate it with torch singing. That It's all ballads, it's all dramatic, and
yes.
and what you're getting across here is that it's peaks and valleys.
Oh, absolutely.
And when I saw a little preview of this show last week, which was awesome, by the way, it was there were I don't know, the 4 songs I heard, 2 of them were comedy songs.
Right.
How many singers are involved in the show?
This particular round we have 6.
And do they switch off, or does everybody have kind of a little set?
Well, it's kind of like the beauty of this is that we can kind of make it up each time. Last time in the fall, I had 5 singers, and they each did about a 25 to 30-minute set, all inclusive, just by themselves. And then this time, because we have more singers, and I'm just changing it up a little bit, it'll be sort of rotation. It's much more artistically scheduled than that, but they'll be alternating, taking turns, and there also are a couple group numbers and things like that too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then this weekend, right?
Actually, next
weekend.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I said this weekend. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So next weekend, the weekend of the
It's the 12th, 13th, and 14th. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So 2 evening shows and a matinee.
That's right. Friday night, Saturday night at 7:30, and then a matinee on Sunday at 2:30.
And if people want tickets, they go to the regular Theater Cedar Rapids box office,
It's
right?
just a Theater Cedar Rapids production. So box office, phone number, whatever they do. Yep.
Now, before we go, we want to talk about your Linda Ronstadt show, which is coming up, because this is really exciting. This is your solo with your ensemble show.
Correct.
Which is coming up in a few weeks at Opus.
Yes, actually the week after the TCR Cabaret show. Because that's how it works, Dennis. That's how it works.
You're either working 24/7 or not at all.
Or you're sitting on the couch weeping. No, I'm just kidding. But, so the Linda Ronstadt show it's the first time I've really ever done a show like this that's of one particular artist's music. But I have to say that I've loved Linda Ronstadt since I was in 7th grade. And I mean, posters of her all over my walls. We have the same initials. We have the same number of letters in our first and last name. And obsessively loved. It
was meant to be.
I know. And so it's been something I've been wanting to do for a long time. And then it turned out that with the way you just kind of have to program the way everything else falls into place. We did stuff this summer that really kind of featured my husband Ron, and so we had these dates at Opus, and I was like, maybe now's the time. So it's very exciting for me personally. We will be doing stuff, I think, that's representative of most of her career.
Well, think about this for just a second, because especially in today's world where the classic rock songs are kind of the only thing you ever hear.
Right.
You think of her big hits from the 70s.
Yes.
But then she went on. She did Broadway.
Yeah.
She did, of course. The Nelson Riddle album stuff with all the standards.
Yes.
And it wasn't until you mentioned this that I thought about that I remember this. But then she did a couple of songs of Latin music heritage.
Right, because her own personal heritage is Mexican, and she did put out an album called La Canción de mi Padre, Songs of My Father, and they're all mariachi. And then she did one called Ma Canciones, My Songs, and they're mostly mariachi with a little bit of variety beyond that. And then she went on and did a third album called Frenesy, which is more Latin, like jazz, all Spanish. And we're doing some of those.
So you're going to hit it all.
I'm going to try, Dennis. I'm going to try. I'm skipping the La Boheme and Pirates of Penzance period of her career for everyone's sake. But it is certainly one of the things that I truly admire about her as a vocalist, because she really ran the gamut. And I've done a lot of reading about her over the years, but especially in preparation for this show, she very much made choices that were not to necessarily her commercial success or what everyone around her was wanting her to do. She really followed her own path of what was exciting and interesting to her. And, of course, she has one of the great voices, I think, of all time. And it's clear and strong. It's not one of those gravelly, raspy voices, which I've always longed to have, and I don't. I have a clear, sort of lovely voice. I say that with a little bit of because sometimes I've really wished I had that other kind of voice, but I'm thoroughly loving this because it's actually kind of right in my wheelhouse. And because I was in about 7th grade when she was doing the country rock stuff.
Right.
I mean,
right there in the times when your musical tastes were being formed.
Exactly. And so almost every single song has a really personal it puts me right back, as I was listening to as making choices, I'm like, oh, that was sophomore year. I can picture myself in my dorm room. I mean, very personally connected to it, which is always really exciting. And I have Steve Shanley and Ron DeWitt and Danny Oline and then Greg Cans. Yeah. And I'm fortunate enough to have a couple background singers, Kathy Kabrick and Amy Renstrom, are going to join me for backup vocals and also probably some auxiliary percussion. So Great. It should be pretty fun.
Well, two wonderful music shows coming up. First off, next weekend, the weekend of the 12th, is the Cabaret Show at Theater Cedar Rapids. Tickets for that at theatercr.org. And then the weekend following, the weekend of February 19th, is your Linda Ronstadt tribute show. That will be at Opus.
Opus, yes.
So tickets through the Symphony box office.
Symphony box office. And artsiowa.org is a place to go to buy tickets for that. And, of course, the phone number for the box office there is 8203. I have a couple numbers written down so I can remember.
Well, good luck with it all. Just
Thank
sounds
you,
like
Dennis.
a blast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it sounds like 2 weekends of great music.